We are about to go live. Mr. Brooks, please be on standby in the next minute. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us at this press briefing. It's a joint press briefing by both the South African Human Rights Commission as well as the Office of the Public Protector. My name is Gershwell Brooks. I am the Communications Coordinator at the South African Human Rights Commission, and I will, of course, just start off the event by simply introducing the various panel members and the reason that we are here today. I think, by way of introduction and looking at who is making up our panel this afternoon, it's of course both, representatives of the Office of the Public Protector, as well as the South African Human Rights Commission. And the spokesperson of the Office of the Public Protector, Mr. Oupa Segalwe, will then assist us with the questions and answers at the end of today's session after the presentations have been made. So by way of introduction, I will first and foremost introduce you to Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. She is, of course, the Public Protector. Advocate Bongani Majola is the Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. And then, of course, also present and who will be participating as a panel member during this particular discussion is, of course, Commissioners Andre Gaum, from the South African Human Rights Commission, as well as Advocate Jonas Sibanyoni, who is also a commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission. Now, the reason why we're here today it dates back all the way to 2019, April 2019 to be more specific, where a series of sporadic service delivery protests erupted in Alexandra, and it was quite a protracted period of protest that lasted all the way through to May of that particular year. But at the core of it were allegations of poor service delivery, but largely in and around the issue of maladministration, as well as allegations of corruption. So on that basis, the Office of the Public Protector, as well as the South African Human Rights Commission, launched a joint investigation, of course, just over 2 years ago, into these service delivery protests. And there were two legs to this particular investigation. First and foremost, it was based on the notion of investigating and making sure what is the cause behind that, with the allegations of maladministration as well as corruption. But simultaneously, the South African Human Rights Commission took to understand that, unfortunately, corruption does have an impact on human rights. And as you well know, the mandate of the South African Human Rights Commission is, in fact, to protect, promote, monitor, and assess the attainment of human rights, as you're well aware. And that is where the South African Human Rights Commission joined this particular investigation. The investigation is now complete. The report is available, and of course, it's going to be delivered. So just by way of letting you know who's going to play what role, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, as the Public Protector, will be delivering the statement on behalf of the Office of the Public Protector, outlining their findings and their outcomes with regards to, and recommendations with regards to this investigation. And then, of course, the Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission will make some introductory remarks, followed then by both Commissioners Andre Gaum and Jonas Sibanyoni, using that as an opportunity to then deliver on the substantive nature of the findings that the South African Human Rights Commission has made, as well as the various recommendations that we have made. And as I mentioned, Mr. Oupa Segalwe will then be taking your questions via WhatsApp and posing those to our panel members, who then in turn will answer them. I thank you for joining us, and I hand over with that immediately to Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the Public Protector of South Africa.
Thank you so much, Program Director, Mr. Brooks. Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission, Advocate Majola. Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Galeka. Commissioner Andre Gam. Commissioner Jonas Ben Sibanyoni. Chief Executive Officer of the Public Protector, Ms. Sibanyoni. Chief Executive Officer of the South African Human Rights Commission, Mr. Tipanyane. Members of the public, particularly the community of Alexandra, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We start this briefing on a sad note, having just learned of the untimely passing of the Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Metropolitan Municipality, Councillor Makhubo, who is said to have succumbed to COVID-19 related complications. Our hearts go out to his family, friends, the leadership and staff of the City of Johannesburg, as well as those of his organization. We worked well with Councillor Makhubo's office during many of our investigations, including that this one, which we will be releasing findings on. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Let us all be safe out there and observe all the safety precautions. Coming back to the business of the day, I wish to start with a heartfelt message of gratitude to all journalists in attendance to the role they continue to play as the eyes and ears of society, ensuring that all of us are informed about matters that we ought to be aware of. As it is, the investigation whose findings we are about to reveal was prompted by the news reports that we read about in the newspapers and on social networks. We saw on television as well and heard on radio when Alexandra was burning. Had it not been for your meticulous work in that regard, we would not have known about the plight of the community of Alexandra. Moreover, we would not have done anything about the community's struggles. Just as you brought that information to our attention, we depend on you to relay the details that we will share in a moment, the findings which we have about the investigation. Although we discourage violent protest and destruction of property as a way of expressing frustrations and impatience, sometimes, or the slow pace and poor quality service delivery, we would appreciate it if you could deliver to the community of Alexandra a message that says that their protest was not in vain. Having said that, we call on all communities across the country to preserve whatever infrastructure they have and avoid violent unrest and utilize the Office of the Public Protector, the Human Rights Commission, and any other Chapter 9 institution which is there to resolve conflicts amicably, since we know that court processes are expensive. So in 2019, coming to the complaint following a week of violent service delivery unrest in Alexandra, Advocate Majola and I met to consider own initiative investigation to tackle the issues that underlay the strife that engulfed that township. The meeting resulted in the announcement of a joint investigation aimed at finding long-lasting solutions to the residents of Alexandra. And we said at the time the Public Protector South Africa team would focus on intervening on maladministration aspects of the issues, including the allocation of resources by respective administrations towards the delivery of quality public services. The South African Human Rights Commission would focus on human rights issues such as access to housing, water, sanitation, education, health, and environmental issues that is not harmful to the health and well-being of the people of Alexandra, among other things. We are pleased to report that this investigation is concluded now, and I will take you through the Public Protector's end of the bargain, or what we have done, and then the South African Human Rights Commission will deal with or share what their findings are. So the constitutional and legislative mandate of the Public Protector, as you would all know, which I wouldn't take for granted that everyone is aware what we are meant to do as the Public Protector South Africa team. We are both section 181 of the Constitution established to independently perform our roles. And we also have the Auditor General, the Electoral Commission. So we do have a forum called Forum for Institutions Supporting Democracy, and that's where we would want to work very closely and also cooperate on a number of issues. Like the courts, these institutions are independent and subject only to the Constitution and the law. They are also impartial and must exercise their powers and perform their functions without fear, favor, or prejudice. So the Constitution commands all other organs of state to assist and protect these institutions so as to ensure their independence, impartiality, dignity, effectiveness. In addition, the Constitution prohibits interference by any person or organ of state with the functioning of these institutions. Each of these institutions has a unique way through which it contributes to the collective in the objective of strengthening constitutional democracy. I will focus on the Public Protector's mandate, which is then provided for in Section 182 of the Constitution, which empowers the Public Protector to investigate, report on, and take appropriate remedy where we investigate alleged or improper or prejudicial conduct in state affairs or the public administration in any sphere of government. As you would know as well, that we take our mandate from the Constitutional Court judgment in EFF versus the Speaker of the National Assembly, where they said the Public Protector's remedial actions are binding unless set aside by a court of law. So the Public Protector does not have powers to court decisions, neither has or any private companies or private individuals, unless it relates to state resources. Therefore, we will look into the movement of the resources or follow the money. So our approach to the investigations, we have a standard approach to investigations in terms of which we set out to establish what happened, what should have happened, whether there is any discrepancy between what happened and what should have happened, and if that deviations amounts to maladministration or any improper conduct. In the event of maladministration or improper conduct, we establish what it would take to appropriately remedy the wrong occasioned by the said maladministration. So the question regarding what happened is resolved through a factual inquiry, relying on the evidence provided by the parties, and we also independently source our own evidence. The one regarding what should have happened focuses on the applicable legal prescripts that regulate the standards that ought to have been met by the relevant organs of state to prevent improper conduct and or maladministration as well as prejudice. The inquiry regarding the appropriate remedy or appropriate remedial action seeks to explore options of redressing the consequences of maladministration where applicable or where possible and appropriate. Therefore, as an institution, we have Vision 2023, where as well from the EFF versus the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Constitutional Court judgment, which tends to be, in fact, which made it an important point, which tends to be overshadowed by the issues pertaining to the binding nature of remedial action. That is critical, the critical role which the Public Protector has to advance the ideal access to justice in a country where litigation appears to be the preserve of the wealthy. According to the Public Protector is an important leveler of the playing field between those who have the means to litigate against those who don't have the resources. Therefore, this is what we call Vision 2023, one of access to the services of the institutions to the grassroots. Therefore, the investigation commenced in April 2019 when we became aware about total shutdown of Alexandra. The reports quoted Ward Councillor Mr. Tefu Rapadu, indicating that the residents of Alexandra informed him and other ward councillors in the area about the impending shutdown of the township, which shutdown was planned to begin on the 3rd of April 2019. Based on a thorough analysis of the complaint and information obtained, we identified and investigated the following 6 issues: whether the management and delivery of bulk municipal services in Alexandra by the City of Johannesburg Metropolitan Municipality, the COJ, accords with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the applicable law, and if not, whether such failure amounts to maladministration and improper conduct. The second issue, whether the provision of housing in Alexandra by the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements and COJ accords with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the applicable law, and if not, whether such failure amounts to maladministration and improper conduct. The third issue, we investigated whether the enforcement of the laws in Alexandra by the South African Police Services and the Johannesburg Metro Police Department accords with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and applicable laws, and whether such failure amounts to maladministration and improper conduct, as well as investigating the fourth issue, whether the provision of social services in Alexandra by the Gauteng Department of Social Development accords with the duties imposed to it by the Constitution and applicable law. The fifth issue, whether the provision of education in Alexandra by the Gauteng Department of Education accords with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and applicable law. And the sixth issue, which is the last one we investigated, whether the total administration of the Alexandra renewal project accords with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the applicable law, and if not, whether such failure amounts to maladministration and improper conduct. So our findings on the bulk municipal services, which is in page 34 to page 70 of our report, the investigation revealed that the management and delivery of bulk municipal services in Alexandra by the COJ does not accord with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the applicable law. Evidence, including observations made by the investigation team during inspection in loco, shows that the City of Johannesburg has not provided municipal services to the community of Alexandra in a sustainable manner. The following service delivery deficiencies were recorded: inadequate housing, which has resulted in widespread land invasion and property encroachment; failure or undue delay to issue title deeds to lawful owners of existing houses; overflowing manholes, blocked drains, and unpleasant stench in hostels; potholes in the streets due to a lack of maintenance; a general lack of maintenance and degradation of buildings at hostels, which has resulted in damaged plumbing system, poor and hygienic conditions; uncollected refuse and waste lies strewn along walkways and corridors within the informal settlements; heavily polluted surface water on the Jackskey River due to direct uncontrolled deposit of waste and raw sewer waste into the stream; chemical toilets shared by no less than 7 families and located within a radius of about 500 meters away from each other; and chemical toilets only cleaned or drained once a week by Pick It Up. However, we note and fully acknowledge practical and significant steps taken by the City of Johannesburg, as is evidenced from its implementation baseline plan, to commit and continue to endeavor to meet its obligations in terms of Section 152(1), Section 24, Section 195(1), and Section 237 of the Constitution, and Section 4, subsection 2 of the Local Government and Municipal Systems Act, Section 19 of the National Water, and Section 2 of the National Environmental Management Act. It is further acknowledged that Most of the adverse findings made in the interim report are already mitigated, as most projects have been completed while others are still underway. Hence, I said earlier, the cooperation and the of the late Councillor Makubo, may his soul rest in peace, I mean, led us to be able to resolve certain issues even before we finalize this report. So the conduct of the City of Johannesburg accordingly constituted improper conduct as envisaged in section 182 of the Constitution and maladministration in terms of section 6.4 of the Public Protector. However, it is to a large extent mitigated by projects that are already completed as per the finished implementation baseline plan. The finding on the provision of housing, which is contained in page 72 to 91 of the report, the investigation also revealed that the provision of housing in Alexandra by the Gauteng Department of Housing and COJ does not accord with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and applicable laws. So it was noted during the investigation that significant strides have been made for the provision of housing for the community of Alexandra. However, there are still some challenges which have been identified by the community. In essence, the community stated that the provision of housing still remains woefully inadequate and manifests itself in the following socio-economic challenges within Alexandra: the ever mushrooming of illegal structures on every piece of land, demolitions, illegal evictions, congestions, overcrowding in the hostels and lack of maintenance, tensions in the community and dissatisfaction by those who are on the housing list for a long time, who are still waiting, rise in vigilantism and criminal groups perpetuated by illegal allocation of houses to foreign nationals and collection of rentals by councillors, illegal occupation of RDP houses, eviction or demolition court orders which are not executed, failure or undue delay to issue qualifying residents of Alexandra with their title deed documents, and trust deficit arising from lack of progress on the settlement of the land claimants in Alexandra since a court interdict was obtained in 2004. The Alexandra statement of intent, which was signed by some parties in June 2016, is still not a legally binding agreement or has funding been committed for the statement of the land claims. So the City of Johannesburg and the Gauteng Department of Housing have accordingly not placed sufficient measures in place to meet its obligations in terms of section 26 of the Constitution, section 2 and 9 of the Housing Act, and other relevant prescripts. Findings relating to enforcement of law, page 91 to page 103 of the report. The investigation further revealed that the enforcement of law in Alexandra by the South African Police Services and JMPD does not accord with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the applicable law. The submission by SAHRC indicates a marked decline in major crimes such as murder, rape, assault, robberies, and other contact crimes. However, crimes against property as well as lack of enforcement of bylaws within Alexandra remains prevalent and can be observed in the following manifestations. This was not disputed by General Sithole or any other of the parties interviewed during the investigation. The crimes in question include the following: lawlessness in the form of illegal occupation of land, encroachment of pavements, informal trading, illegal connection of electricity, illegal dumping of waste, and controlled influx of illegal immigrants, malicious damage of state property and infrastructure, lack of enforcement of traffic laws. So the above identified gaps in the area of law enforcement within Alexandra all fortify the allegations that SAHRC and JMPD have not taken adequate measures to prevent, combat, and investigate crime to maintain law and order in Alexandra, particularly where bylaws are concerned. It is evident that further work still needs to be done to address the issue of law enforcement in Alexandra. So SAHRC and JMPD have not placed sufficient measures in place, and that hence we are saying that is then amounts to or constitute improper conduct or maladministration. Finding relating to provision of social services, which is contained in page 104 to 117 of the report. We found that the provision of social services in Alexandra by the relevant Department of Social Development does not accord with the duties imposed on it by the Constitution and the applicable laws. So the social development failed to develop and implement adequate social relief programs and a social welfare center or social infrastructure within Alexandra for people who are in need of social protection to access it with ease. It is, however, noted that the department is in the process of procuring the office space for the purpose of establishing this particular service point. We have also noted the concerns raised by the community of Alexandra during our engagement with them that there's no referral services in respect of illegal immigrants to the Department of Home Affairs, referral services in respect of housing, sufficient food relief and psycho-social support for the victims of winter shack fires and victims of flooding disasters. Sufficient substance abuse, substance abuse and crime awareness programs or knowledge of such programs if available, and also places of care such as child and youth care centers, home-based care facilities. Those are not there for the vulnerable members of the community. Failure to provide or enable access to these adequate social services to the people of Alexandra does not promote the objects of Section 27 of the Constitution, and therefore they are in violation of the Constitution. So in this particular aspect, we found that the Department of Social Development violated the Constitution and the relevant prescripts, and that amounts to maladministration. As far as the provision of education is concerned, page 105 to page 130 of the report, we also found that the provision of education in Alexandra by the Department of Education accords with the duties imposed by the Constitution, meaning we didn't find any negative findings, or there are no negative findings against the Department of Education. From the evidence gathered by the investigation team during the inspection in loco and the submission received from the Department of Education, it appears that the schooling infrastructure or the facilities in Alexandra are reasonably in place. Evidence further revealed that sufficient and adequate educational programs, additional or alternative classes were put in place to avert the negative effect of the civil protest of children, school attendance, and access to basic education as required by the Constitution and the South African Schools Act. Therefore, this does not amount to improper conduct as envisaged in Section 182 of the Constitution or maladministration in terms of the Public Protector Act. The last one relates to the Alexandra Renewal Project, which is in page 130 to page 145. The allegation that the local administration of the ARP, I'll call it ARP, Alexandra Renewal Project, does not accord with the duties imposed by the Constitution and applicable law, and could not be determined due to an availability of documents related to the ARP. So the Department of Housing and Service Delivery did not avail records in connection with financial procurement, business plans, maps, drawings, contracts, list of service providers, and expenditure incurred or undertaken under ARP due to alleged seizure of such documents by COJ's forensic investigators. As a result of the lack or absence of such records, no audit could be done by the Office of the Auditor General of South Africa, as well as by the Joint Investigation Team, to determine the just and fairness of the procurement processes and the values for money spent under the ARP. However, Mr. Madlopa and Tenga Incorporated attorneys has already been appointed by the City of Johannesburg to conduct a forensic investigation. Actually, they are at an advanced stage, and as a result, this would be of little value to derive more traversing or for us to traverse on this issue, especially from a resource perspective. Hence, we will be working with them closely as the institution, especially where we would assist and within the mandate of the Public Protector, so that they can expediently finalize their investigation. So the appropriate remedial action which we've taken as an institution, we direct the city manager of Johannesburg within 60 working days of the date of this report to table a copy thereof before the municipal council. So the municipal council to discuss, adopt and pass a resolution thereon, indicating steps, measures to be taken by the COJ to address shortcomings on municipal services in Alexandra in line with the legislative powers. Within 60 working days of this report, of the adoption of this report by the council, submit a detailed project implementation plan to the public protector, indicating steps, measures to be taken by the municipality to address the following issues: fencing and maintenance of Alexandra Cemetery, maintenance of the Helen Joseph Women's Hostel and Matala Hostel, de-densification of Alexandra, refused removal and identification and cleaning of illegal dumping area in Alexandra, addressing overflowing manholes, gray surface water, enforcement of the bylaws listed above by the JMPD, and the operational plan should include any collaboration with other law enforcement agencies, including SAPS, dealing with illegal structure encroaching on municipal land and government structures, and maintenance of roads. Within 30 working days of the date of this report, submit a project plan to the public protector for ARP forensic investigation, which is being conducted by this firm of attorneys, in order to be assisted when necessary, and within 30 days thereafter, the COJ must submit to the public protector a final copy of the ARP forensic report. We direct the National Commissioner of Police to, within 30 days of the date of the formal report, engage with the JMPD to draw up an operational plan relating to supportive role by SAPS in the enforcement of bylaws in Alexandra. The plan should include any collaboration and support that will be made by SAPS, since they have the national competence and they are a constitutional institution on all matters relating to crime prevention. So we direct the head of housing and settlement to, within the 60 working days of date of this report, submit a detailed project implementation plan relating to identified RDP housing needs in Alexandra and criteria to be used when identifying, qualifying, and preferential beneficiaries. We direct this HOD of Service of Social Development, within 60 working days of the date of this report, submit a detailed infrastructure implementation plan for Alexandra with clear dates, turnaround periods, targets, and deliverables, indicating how renovation and rehabilitation of the identified current housing to accommodate proposed social amenities or social service center in Alexandra would be undertaken. We further make recommendations in pursuit of Section 64C, Roman figure 2 of the Public Protector Act, that the Premier of Gauteng should request the President to issue a proclamation in terms of Section 2.1 of the Special Investigation Unit and Special Tribunals Act to investigate, among others, the following allegations in relation to ARP, Alexandra Renewable Project: procurement fraud and or irregularities, post facto approvals, irregular awards, advance payments, conflict of interest, unauthorized expenditure, fruitless, wasteful expenditure, and any other form of maladministration or misappropriation of public funds, and recovery of public funds where appropriate. The Premier must further facilitate an overall multidisciplinary approach and collaboration between provincial and local spheres of government for the ultimate realization and improvement of service delivery in Alexandra. Lastly, we make the recommendations in pursuit of Section 64C, Roman figure 2 of the Public Protector Act, that the head of the Directorate of Priority Crimes Investigations must consider a criminal investigation where it appears that there might be crimes which have been committed in relation to ARP. Conclusion: we are alive to the reality that This may be a lot of information to take in, perhaps the highlight of a few indications or impact of this investigation on service delivery in Alexandra, and therefore the legacy of our investigation. One can point out that the following issues, though not exhaustive, have either been settled or are in the process of being settled, which is the fencing and maintenance of the cemetery, the maintenance of Helen Joseph Women's and Madala hostels, refuse removal, street cleaning and clearing of illegal dumping, addressing of overflowing manhole gray surface water, identification of RDP housing needs and criteria of identification of qualifying beneficiaries, enforcement of bylaws by JMPD, maintenance of roads, sourcing of premises for social infrastructure through leasing of premises or repurposing of existing buildings. For instance, a water pump and water tankers have already been installed at Helen Joseph hostels and Madala hostels. The broken fence at the cemetery has been replaced. Refuse collection, clearing of illegal dumping and cleaning of streets is taking place 7 days a week now. All these are according to the implementation plan received from the city of Joburg. Hence, I'm saying, yes, there was a lot of cooperation and we hope it will continue. This is the legacy which the late Honorable Makubo has left. As I conclude, we would like to thank all the respondents who assisted with information we required during the investigation. Had it not been for your cooperation and understanding that we don't seek to vilify or embarrass you, or that ours is merely to help you realize, in fact, ours is only to help you realize that which you already promised those who elected you to office by pointing out to you or the blind spots and helping you to address your shortcomings. We would not be here tomorrow. Above all else, would like to commend the likes of the City of Johannesburg, the Gauteng Department of Social Development, who did not wait for us to finalize our investigation, but moved swiftly to address some of the challenges identified. In addition, submitted comprehensive implementations plan to breathe life into the appropriate remedial action that we have taken. We implore other organs of state to emulate this conduct. In the same vein, we wish to thank Advocate Majola, Commissioner Gam, and Sibanyoni and their team on yet another successful collaborative effort. As you may recall, PPSA and South African Human Rights Commission have previously joined forces in investigations into service delivery challenges of the grassroots community in Masiphumelele informal settlements in Cape Town, Western Cape, and Libland's hostel in eThekwini, KwaZulu-Natal. The two institutions are currently working hand in glove with key stakeholders to find everlasting solutions to the challenges that continue to bedevil the higher education sector to the detriment of young people. These collaborations, which have been made possible by a memorandum of understanding we've signed between the two institutions in 2018, go to show that joining forces as accountability institutions, we stand to make greater impact than when we work in silos and competing against each other. Thank you, Program Director, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the Public Protector of South Africa. I immediately hand over to Advocate Bongani Majola. He is the Chairperson of the South African Commission, of the South African Human Rights Commission.
Thank you, Program Director. The Public Protector South Africa, the Deputy Public Protector South Africa, our commissioners who are present here, including Commissioner Garman, Commissioner Sibanyoni, our CEO, Advocate Tupanyane, and the CEO of the Public Protector, Ms. Kandi Sibanyoni. We would like also to say welcome to the provincial manager of the Gauteng province, Buang Jones, and to thank also and greet the people of Alexandra. First, I would like just to echo the shocking news of the passing of the mayor of Johannesburg, Mayor Makubo. It's a big shock to us. It's a loss to the city, but it's a bigger loss to the family and a loss to his organization. So we send, as the Human Rights Commission, condolences to the family in particular, and to his organizations and the colleagues that he works with closely. I would like also to echo the sentiments expressed by the Public Protector at the beginning of her address, where she said that we do support the right to protest, however, that we cannot support the damage to property for obvious reasons, and that we do condemn that. And we would like to encourage communities to come forward and express their concerns. We are here to listen and to try and assist. It doesn't need to damage a school or to burn a clinic in order for you to be heard. Section 10 of the South African Constitution provides that, Section 9, provides that everyone has inherent dignity and the right to have their dignity protected and respected. And this section actually comes after Section 7.2 of the Constitution, which puts an obligation on the state to respect, promote, protect, and fulfill the rights that are in the Bill of Rights. Now, unfortunately, this investigation and joint report show that this has not been the case with most of the people of Alexandra, if not all of them. Their right to dignity, as well as many of their other human rights, have not been respected, protected, and fulfilled. In April 2019, the residents of the township of Alexandra took to the streets of Alexandra, as well as surrounding suburbs, to protest ongoing service delivery failures. They barricaded roads with burning tires and rocks as part of the hashtag Alex Total Shutdown and the Alex Total Shutdown movement, which was a call to action against severe overcrowding, inadequate service delivery, rampant crime, and illegal land occupations. Both the South African Human Rights Commission and Public Protector immediately visited Alexandra and engaged in person with members of the Total Shutdown movement and other residents of Alexandra. Complaints raised included issues of service delivery, as well as complaints relating to the realization of the Alexandra Renewal Project. Following that site visit and what was observed during the visit, the Commission and Public Protector resolved to hold a joint inquiry into the causes of the protest action, the prevailing socio-economic conditions, and the alleged maladministration in the running of Alexandra, with specific focus on the delivery and realization of the Alexandra Renewal Project. It was agreed, however, that the Commission's investigation would be limited to its mandate, and that it would therefore focus on socio-economic rights and related human rights issues, while the inquiry of the Public Protector would focus on maladministration and related issues. Central to the investigation by each of these institutions is the recognition that maladministration, corruption, and lack of proper planning, all of which you have now heard about from the Public Protector, result in ongoing violation of basic human rights. Our work as the Commission, with the people of Alexandra, organs of states, and the Public Protector has been to look very carefully and listen very carefully. Our investigation included a number of activities culminating in recommendations and directives which require both immediate and planned action. So Commissioner Gaum and Commissioner Spagnoni will brief you on the findings and the recommendations. I'm not going to go into that. But the example of what I was saying, the Commission has found, among others, that there have been and still are failures or difficulties in the realization of socio-economic rights and the right to freedom of persons living in Alexandra. There are massive overcrowding problems in Alexandra. Today, the plus minus 800 hectares of Alexandra contains a population of 750,000 individuals. The Commission is concerned that these cramped and overcrowded conditions, combined with a lack of proper planning and infrastructure development as the township populations grew, high rates of unemployment, crime, and limited access to socio-economic rights potentially make Alexandra a ticking time bomb in terms of service delivery problems. We are therefore hopeful that the results of this joint investigation will result in significant and visible improvement in the plight of the people of Alexandra. And we've had the public protector saying that the city of Johannesburg had actually begun to do positive work under the recently passed mayor, and we hope that this will continue. Clearly, whatever has been done by government, or whatever has been done by government up until the shutdown protest and immediately thereafter, leaves much to be desired, or left much to be desired, as well as the ongoing violations of the socio-economic rights or the rights or other rights of the people of Alexandria. It is encouraging that the state appears to have acknowledged that there is a problem that needs to be fixed. We hope that it will be. In conclusion, let me thank the public protector, Advocate Mkhwebane, for agreeing when we proposed to work collaboratively with the Commission on the Alexandra investigation. The importance of collaboration in promoting and protecting human rights cannot be overemphasized. It is necessitated by the fact that complaints that come to us often straddle and implicate mandates of different institutions. It is not the first time that the two institutions have had to collaborate in tackling problems that plague communities and violate their rights. And it is not the last time. Some time back, the two institutions signed a memorandum of agreement to collaborate on suitable projects exactly because of this realization. Parliament and its portfolio committees, and in fact, other Chapter 9 institutions themselves have emphasized the need for institutions to supporting constitutional democracy to work collaboratively. We're therefore pleased that it is now happening, at least between the Public Protector and the South African Human Rights Commission. I wish to thank the state organs who have collaborated and cooperated with this investigation for their cooperation. Our gratitude also goes to the Office of the Auditor General for its support, and most importantly, to the people of Alexandra who shared their experiences with us and gave further information on that. And we trust that they will continue to cooperate, especially when we continue to monitor progress on the implementation of the corrective measures that we are recommending. Finally, my gratitude goes to the staff of the Gauteng Provincial Office of the Commission, led by Boang Jones, for the work that they've done in regard to this investigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. That was, of course, the Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. That's Advocate Bongani Majola. Up next, Commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission. That's, of course, Advocate Jonas Sibanyoni. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Program Director Ashwell Brooks. And then I would like to greet everyone all. To save time, I will go directly to my input in this launch of the final report of the Gauteng Provincial Inquiry into the Alexander shutdown. First of all, I would like to start by quoting from the producer and the reporter, Itumeleng Mafisa, who once wrote and said, I quote, "Like a pirate ship that has been through many adventures, Alexander is able to tell a century-old tale of a struggle of rural Africans who came to Johannesburg to look for greener pastures. The first 40 families arrived in Alexander in 1913, with their houses standing tall and proud," unquote. Alexander Township, or called Alex, was established in 1912. It was the only place where Black people, or natives as they were called, they were labeled by the colonizers, could buy freehold land. The cost of plots ranged from 40 pounds to 200 pounds. Alex is approximately 800 hectares in size, including the East Bank, and was designed for a population of about 70,000 people. Original stands were between 500 and 1,000 square meters, with the stands progressively decreasing in size as more people purchased land. By 1949, Alex had an approximate population of 100,000 people. Following the apartheid government's abolition of influx control, urbanization surged, leading in an increased population in Alex. By 1990, the population of Alex was estimated to be between 200,000 to 300,000 people. Most of the new residents were accommodated in backyard shacks and freestanding informal settlements. People living in Alex also occupied factories at the edge of the township, bordering or in Marlborough. Today, plus minus 800 hectares of Alex contains approximately a population of 750,000 people, as our chairperson, Advocate Bongani Majola, has alluded to. These cramped and overcrowded conditions, combined with a lack of planning and infrastructure development as the township grew, high rates of unemployment, and limited access to socio-economic rights, make Alex a ticking time bomb in terms of service delivery problems. Secondly, I want to deal with the hashtag Alex shutdown. In April 2019, the residents of Alexander Township and surrounding areas embarked on protest action regarding ongoing service delivery failures. The Commission observed that the protest action was profoundly linked to the advancement of the community's struggle for the realization of their socio-economic rights. On the back of a site visit and owing to a myriad cross-cutting issues highlighted by the residents of Alexandra, the Human Rights Commission and the Public Protector held a joint inquiry into the causes of the protest action. The prevailing socio-economic conditions and the alleged administration in Alex respectively, with a specific focus on the delivery and realization of the Alexander Renewal Project. Secondly, I want to deal with the joint inquiry. In terms of the joint inquiry and also the reporting thereon, the Commission based its conditional mandate focused on socio-economic rights and related issues. I want to just go a little back because there was a message popping on my screen requiring me to start again. I want to say, secondly, in terms of the joint inquiry and the reporting thereon, the Commission, based on its constitutional mandate, focused on socio-economic rights related issues, while the Public Protector, based on its constitutional mandate, focused on maladministration and related issues, as it has been alluded before. Further on, Program Director, I would like to now to deal with the mandate of the Human Rights Commission. And very briefly, the Human Rights Commission is a state institution established under Chapter 9 of the Constitution. The Commission is mandated in terms of Section 184, subsection 1 of the Constitution, to do the following. 1, to promote respect for human rights and the culture of human rights. 2, to promote the protection, development, and attainment of human rights. And thirdly, to monitor and assess the observance of human rights in the Republic. Under Section 184, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the Human Rights Commission Act 40 of 2013, the Commission is empowered to investigate and to report on the observance of human rights and to take steps to secure appropriate redress where human rights have been violated. I want to repeat this mandate: to take steps to secure appropriate redress where human rights have been violated. These powers are given additional impetus through the power conferred on the Commission through Section 13, subsection 1 of the Human Rights Commission Act, to make recommendations to organs of state for the adoption of progressive measures to promote human rights and appropriate measures for the further observance of such rights. Organs of states are also statutorily enjoined to cooperate with the Commission in the conduct of its work. The investigation into the protest action and alleged violation in human rights in Alex, therefore, took place under the ambit of the Human Rights Commission Act and resulted in the directives to organs of state for both immediate implementation and towards full resolution. Thirdly, Program Director, I want to deal with inquiry and findings. Following rigorous inspections and engagements with stakeholders prior to and during the inquiry, which included written and oral submissions to the inquiry panel, and having afforded organs of state responsible for service delivery in Alex, as well as political parties mentioned during the public forum, the opportunity to respond the various submissions made to the inquiry panel, the Commission found in respect of the following rights as follows. Number 1, property and housing. The Commission finds that the progressive realization of the right to adequate housing and security of tenure in Alex is, as it is in the rest of Gauteng. I want to repeat this again. As it is in the rest of Gauteng and other economic hubs, despite the progressive or the progress made by the state, far from significantly realized. To this end, Program Director, the relevant organs of state must provide the Commission within 60 days of the release of this report, a report and plans which must specifically, those plans must specifically, I want to emphasize as to what these plans should do. The plans must specifically indicate the measures to be implemented to remedy the concerns noted by the Commission in this report. The report and plans must address the following. I want to emphasize what must be contained in those reports. Firstly, measures taken in response to the number of people who applied for state or RDP housing in the mid-1990s and who 20 years later are still waiting to be allocated housing. Secondly, controls in place to mitigate against the reoccurrence of illegal occupation of RDP housing allocated to other people, as well as the erection of illegal structures, and steps to be taken to remedy the existing breach of community members whose rights have been usurped by illegal occupation. Further, a description of property that has been identified for development. A bylaw enforcement and accountability strategy and implementation plan. And lastly, detailed information in respect of mitigation actions relating to the loss of water, monitoring exercises, the accessibility of sanitation and water for vulnerable persons, and timeframes within which basic minimum standards will be achieved. The second issue that I want to deal with is water, sanitation, refuse removal, and the rights to a clean environment. Program Director, the Commission finds that the city of Johannesburg loses significant amounts of water due to leaks and burst pipes. The underreporting of water leakages and burst pipes is a challenge in informal settlements. To this end, the Commission recommends that the city of Johannesburg attends to fixing of leaks as soon as practically possible. The Commission seeks the following. The Commission seeks an update on the progress of water demand management project, infrastructure repair and maintenance to mitigate cost and decrease of accessibility of account of leaks, burst pipes. The report is to include a progress status in respect of the response to littering and the illegal dumping of waste, and in respect of dumping in the Jackscale River, as the public protector has alluded to. I want now to deal with social welfare. In response to submissions regarding the carrying capacity of the Department of Social Development to adequately service communities in Alex, the Commission seeks a response regarding progress in establishing a permanent office in Alex from the Gauteng Department of Social Development, DSD. Program Director, I would like to end there.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sibanyoni. Up next, we have Commissioner Andre Gaum from the South African Human Rights Commission to take us further with regards to the findings as well as the recommendations by the South African Human Rights Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. First of all, I'd like to deal with our findings pertaining to education. It could be found in part 8.18 of the report. So following the Commission's intervention in the matter of Centre for Child Law and others versus Minister of Basic Education and others, the so-called Phakamisa case, undocumented learners may not be prohibited from accessing public schools. There were provisions that made it difficult for undocumented learners to get access to schools, but the Phakamisa case has made it clear that the lack of documentation cannot be a prohibiting factor in this regard. Therefore, there is no longer a conflict for the Gauteng Department of Education in dealing with undocumented learners in Alex schools. The Commission recommends, therefore, that the Gauteng Department of Education engages with the Department of Home Affairs to ensure all learners who are entitled to birth certificates and identity numbers receive such, or that acceptable admission documents are provided to avoid prejudice to the right of every learner to access education and to support planning by the Gauteng Department of Education. We find that notwithstanding the Phakamisa case, this remains to be a problem that learners without documentation, that includes South Africans, as well as foreigners, are being excluded from schooling. That is not permissible, as Phakamisa pointed out, in terms of our constitution. And therefore, we need to make sure that this is implemented also in the case of Alex. Secondly, I will deal with the matter of freedom and security, and specifically policing in this regard. And I refer you to part 8.20 of the report. The Commission received submissions that the Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department, the JMPD, and the Provincial Department of Community Safety Enforcement had not been working together as far as enforcement is concerned, and that this was one of the reasons that enforcement was not as effective in Alex. In that regard, the Commission recommends that the City of Johannesburg, together with the Provincial Department of Community Safety and the JMPD, develop a collective response for visible policing, enforcing bylaws in respect of illegal activity, and ensure the safety and protection of the residents of Alexandra. Following the decision in Social Justice Coalition and others versus the Minister of Police and others, the Commission recommends that the South African Police Service and the Department of Community Safety in Gauteng review the allocation of police resources in Alex to ensure that allocation is not discriminatory in comparison to the enforcement resources allocated in wealthier suburbs, such as may be seen in the neighboring districts or suburbs of Sandton and Kramerville. As far as equality is concerned, this report documents and illustrates the role that socioeconomic circumstances play in addressing and alleviating abiding inequality in our country. The situation in Alex as it relates to education, healthcare, housing, and basic service delivery speaks to the barriers that exclude predominantly Black communities from positive human development on an equal basis with others and from having equal opportunities to contribute to society. These conditions, without a doubt, have a negative impact on transformation and social cohesion in the country. The right to freedom and security is an example which clearly demonstrates the compounded impacts to rights when viewed in the context of systemic inequality and weak enforcement and deterrence. From an equality perspective, it is critical that gender-based violence is prevented and that the safety and security of vulnerable groups like children and persons with disabilities, is secured. The inquiry revealed that Alex is unsafe even for the police themselves, who are trained and equipped with tools to fight crime. The Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department submitted that, and I quote, Alexandra is a very difficult place to police because of the space environment. There is congestion, end of quote. Both the Department of Community Safety in Gauteng and JMPD submitted that it was impossible to conduct foot patrols due to safety concerns in the informal settlements. According to the Department of Community Safety, poor street lighting and the proliferation of alcohol outlets in Alex contributed to an increase in crime. How does such a scenario respect the right to freedom and security of the person? And what are the untold impacts to basic rights for women and vulnerable groups in Alex? Weak enforcement, protection, and deterrent efforts no doubt have an impact on their ability to live a safe, dignified, and productive life. It is also clear that it is unlikely that law enforcement could be effective in preventing or responding to crimes in the area in a timely fashion. This situation therefore leaves the most vulnerable in the area exposed, unprotected, and relatively disadvantaged on account of their circumstances, which clearly is not the case in other surrounding areas. I now move to our conclusion, which could be found in part 9 of the report. In conclusion, despite the progress made by the City of Johannesburg and other organs of state in taking steps to progressively realize certain socio-economic rights of the people living in Alex, the vast majority of people still live in informal settlements in conditions rendered all the more dire by the COVID-19 pandemic. The conditions in which they live include having to share a few chemical toilets and water taps located on the edge of the townships. Noting the crime rates in the country and the unacceptably high rates of violence against women and children, serious efforts are required by enforcement bodies to restore safety and security of the people of Alex. Without legally secured tenure and access to running water of suitable quality, adequate sanitation, electricity, and clean streets to live in, people in Alex will continue to live in situations that pose ongoing violations to their right to live a dignified life. The findings and directives by the Commission are to be read as determinations by the Commission which are confined to the existing state of human rights in Alex. These findings and directives are separate from any other findings made or to be made by the Office of the Public Protector of South Africa or any other tribunal, court, or body. To this effect, the Commission directs that all parties to which the findings and issues apply respond to the Commission jointly or separately within 60 days of receiving this report, as also alluded to by Commissioner Sibanyoni. The Commission's directives herein are binding on the respondents. Should any of the parties be aggrieved by the findings and directives of the Commission as contained herein, such a party is entitled to challenge such in court through the process of judicial review. An application for judicial review must be made within 180 days of the date on which all internal remedies were exhausted. Where there are no internal remedies available, the application must be made within 180 days of the date on which the applicant became aware of the decision or could reasonably be expected to have become aware of the decisions of the Commission. I thank you very much, Public Protector and Program Director.
Thank you very much indeed, Commissioner Andre Gam. With that, I will hand you over to the very capable hands of Mr. Opa Sekhalwe, the spokesperson of the Office of the Public Protector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brooks. A big thank you also to Commissioners Gam and Sibanyoni, to Advocate Majola, as well as the Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Let me indicate at this point that copies of the statement read out by the Public Protector has been shared on various platforms, and the report has also been shared on the very same platforms for the convenience of journalists. I'm informed that the same will be happening in regards to the statements read out by Commissioners Sibanyoni and Gam. It is now time for us to take questions from members of the media. The request was for journalists to follow these proceedings on the respective YouTube channels of the Public Protector and the Commission. We also ask that questions be channeled through the Public Protector media WhatsApp group, which a few of the colleagues in the media have already done. Now, if there are still journalists out there following these proceedings but are not on our WhatsApp group, they are welcome to send the questions directly to me, and I'll be sure to read them out here. I must just plead with colleagues that let us please restrict the questions to matters pertaining to the reports that were tabled here this afternoon. Any other requests can be dealt with outside of this forum. I now start with questions received from Mr. Chris Gilili of the Mail and Guardian newspaper. He has sent us a set of about 5 questions, so I will just read them out in full, and then I will come to other questions after this round. Mr. Gilili asks the following: what has been the City of Johannesburg's stance on the findings of maladministration against them? Second question: what is the suggested way forward from the Public Protector on this matter? Third question: what have other departments said about the findings as far as they are concerned? Fourth question: precisely how long has this investigation taken to complete? And the last question: has there been elements of corruption in the Public Protector's findings? Maybe I should just repeat them in case the Public Protector and team did not get all of them. The first question: what has been the City of Johannesburg's stance on the findings of maladministration against the city? 2, what is the suggested way forward from the Public Protector on this matter? 3, what have other departments said about the findings as far as those departments are concerned? 4, precisely how long has the investigation taken to complete? And lastly, has there been elements of corruption in the Public Protector's findings? Those are from the Mail and Guardian. I will then hand over to the Public Protector and team to respond to those questions before we take the next batch. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, Mr. Sekhalwe. I will request the Deputy Public Protector and Mr. Dlamini to respond to the questions, because the Public Protector was the Deputy Public Protector was directly involved in the investigation and leading the team. And Mr. Dlamini is also one of the key investigators in the project. Over to you, DPP.
Thank you, Public Protector. A very good afternoon to all. The City of Johannesburg, as the Public Protector had said, has been quite cooperative to the investigations. They have already started implementing some of the remedial actions. They have also committed to share with us a plan of the continuation of the remedial actions. At this stage, we cannot really comment on the stance because the Public Protector is only releasing the report today. However, their response to the Section 7.9, which is our preliminary report, which sets out what we would find in our final report and what possible remedial actions we would come up with, has been positive. Hence, they have contributed with their cooperation and also a plan of how far they are thus far. The way forward on the side of Public Protector South Africa will be to monitor the remedial actions in accordance with the timeframes that have been stipulated in the report. Of importance is also monitoring the finalization of the forensic report that has been undertaken through the forensic department of the city, which they have outsourced, and that we have also requested that a copy of that report be provided to the Office of the Public Protector to ensure that whichever recommendations would have been stipulated therein become actioned by the city. The Public Protector has not as yet investigated the leg of corruption in the matter. Hence, we are going to be monitoring the forensic investigations that are being embarked on, and we will take the matter from there. At this stage, it is only issues of improprieties and maladministration which have been investigated. Thank you.
Thank you, DPP. I think we've answered all the questions. How long did the investigation take place? Since 2019, and we issued the report now 2021. Within the Public Protector, this report falls under the, because it was both a service failure and governance failure investigation. Normally, our governance failure investigations takes up to 24 months. And if it's a very involved, complicated corruption or conduct failure investigation or governance failure investigation, takes up to 36 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Public Protector and Deputy Public Protector. I have a few more questions. Let me start with one from Katleho Sikhoto from Kaya 959. That's Kaya FM. Mr. Sikhoto asks, following this investigation, what consequences exist for those who did not carry out their mandate and subsequently left the residents of Alex in a dire situation without services, lack of housing, and poor infrastructure maintenance? I repeat the question. Following this investigation, what consequences exist for those who did not carry out their mandate and subsequently left the residents of Alex in a dire situation without services, lack of housing, and poor infrastructure management? I now move to questions from ENCA sent by Mr. Lindoguhle Kulu. He asks, did the investigation point out from when exactly did this lack of service delivery begin? That's the first question. Second question, the recommendations require responses within 30 days. With the sad and untimely passing of the mayor of Johannesburg, will more time be afforded to the city in this regard? The third question, what are some of the things the late mayor embarked upon as a response to some of the issues in Alex that he's being commended for in the report? And lastly, are there any prosecutions of any individuals responsible for the decay in Alex? I'll stop there and then we'll take another round. I still have two more queries from other journalists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sekhalwe. I think I will hand over the questions to what consequences and the involvement or the cooperation of the Councillor Makubo to Mr. Dlamini. And I think from the Human Rights Commission, Professor Majola will also indicate from their side who can respond to especially on issues of consequences and on issues of what needs to happen going forward, and the issue of why are we giving 30 days in some issues, but I need to clarify. The 30 days and the 60 days which we are issuing relates to them preparing an implementation plan. And as I've read during my statement, the City of Johannesburg has submitted their very comprehensive plan. They are busy implementing that particular plan. And the others, we are requesting the plans on how they will be implementing our remedial action. So the time frame which we've given was to make sure that that is done. Over to you, Vusi, and then thereafter to Professor Majola.
Thank you, Public Protector, and good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, yes, with regard to what Councillor Makubo has done to be praised, I would like to take the question in the following fashion. The Public Protector was favored with a positive response by the City of Johannesburg after we had tabled our adverse findings and identified areas of deficiencies as far as the rolling out of municipal services is concerned in Alexandra. I'm not inclined to say this was done by Councillor Makubo as the question was phrased, but the City of Johannesburg, because the investigation was conducted against the city, and he is also being a mayor, is an employee of the city. So the city has responded with an implementation baseline plan, which basically indicates that in the 7 major areas of deficiencies that were highlighted by the Public Protector. For example, as far as the maintenance of Alexandra Cemetery and the fencing of that cemetery, COJ indicated on their implementation plan that already by October 2020, they had already replaced that broken fence in Alexandra Cemetery. They had already undertaken the grass cutting on the cemetery and the removal of waste, which was dumped in the cemetery. They have also indicated that the maintenance of Helen Joseph Women's Hostel, as well as Madala Hostel, the refurbishment and repairs, as well as the maintenance process has begun. The baseline plan that was submitted by COJ in that regard has got the timeframes and the details of the work that has already been done and the one that is still to be done in order to fix all the leakages and other plumbing issues that were identified by the Public Protector. COJ has also indicated in their response that as far as the refuse removal in Alex, it is now happening from Monday to Sunday, including the refuse removal in areas of illegal dumping, which happens between Monday and Friday. There was also an issue of identification of RDP houses, the enforcement of bylaws, and the maintenance of roads. The Public Protector was favored with an implementation plan and an indication of the steps, which are all detailed in the report. I'll pause there. I think that addresses the question of what COJ has been done.
Thank you. Professor Majola, from your side.
Yeah, thank you very much. On the issue of consequences, I mean, it's a broad question. Sometimes the consequences, people talk about punitive consequences. The people of Alexandra are living in circumstances that actually violate their right to dignity, among other things. they don't have access to many of the rights that other people are having. And therefore, they are not actually getting equal access to or an equal protection of the law. What is important for the Commission is actually to see to it that the authorities are moved towards doing something in order to alleviate that situation. That's the first prize for us. So we have not spent time to look at what consequences. The consequences that we're expecting are that the things that we've recommended should be done will be done, so that then it alleviates the pressure on the people of Alexandra, and it opens access for them to the rights that up to now they are being denied. So those would be the consequences we're looking for. But also, when you ask why 30 days instead of 50 days and so on, there is a bit of an arbitrariness in that, because you cannot measure it scientifically, but you look at the facts of each case and look at the level of violation, and you know, and then you make an assessment as to how quickly this should be done in order to alleviate the violation. But also, the Commission has got a mandate to monitor the observance of human rights, and you put dates so that you would like to keep that particular department involved and engaged in the process of rectifying the violation. And if you give 30 days, then they know that within a short time, they will have to report back, the Commission will come back to them, and so on. Costs, we do sometimes grant an extension, but monitor on a close basis, because if you don't, then some of the things will not be attended. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. There was an issue of the criminal or consequences. I must indicate that in the Public Protector report, you will see that we have a remedial action where we are referring this matter we're requesting in terms of section 64C, Roman figure 2 of the Public Protector Act, that the Gauteng Premier of, in fact, the Premier of Gauteng, to request the President in terms of, to issue a proclamation in terms of section 2.1 of the Special Investigation Unit and Special Tribunals Act, to investigate the procurement fraud, post facto approvals, irregular awards, adverse payments, conflict of interest, unauthorized expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure in this Alexandra renewal project. And the Premier must further facilitate an overall multidisciplinary approach in this matter. Again, we are referring the matter to the head of the Directorate of Priority Crimes Investigations, the Hawks, which must consider conducting criminal investigations where there's suspected fraud. But the nice thing about this is that when the SIU, when they investigate, normally when they are picking up any criminal conduct, they will immediately as well raise them or refer them to the Hawks, and they will have evidence. So from our side, we have all the evidence relating to, actually the evidence is in possession of these forensic investigators, which cause, in fact, it's piles and piles of records which are there, and the evidence is there. It's just for them to go there and analyze or as well oversee that. So there would be consequence where people have wasted resources of the state for their own benefit. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Public Protector. Thank you, Advocate Majola and Mr. Dlamini. Just for the benefit of the journalists, earlier Mr. Vusmus Dlamini did not have his video on. I just want to let you know that he is a provincial representative of the Public Protector in the Eastern Cape. And until recently, he was based at our Johannesburg office and was therefore in charge of that investigation. Hence, his depth of knowledge in terms of the details of this particular investigation. Now, I have a few more questions. Let me start with ones from a local newspaper in Alexandra called Alex Reporter. The inquirer is Mr. Cliff Shiko. He asks, on the issue of the statement of intent, has the public protector been in contact with property owners in Alexandra? That's the first question from Mr. Shiko to the public protector. The second question is, should the government not take seriously the remedial action, what should the residents of Alexandra do to receive better services? And then his last question is directed to the Human Rights Commission. He would like to know if the commission has investigated the state of the Jaskei River. So those are the three questions from Alex Reporter, a community newspaper in that township. And then the questions are from Mr. Cliff Shiko. Now, there is two more questions from Ground Up. And they are sent by Ms. Masiho Mafata. She would like to know, how do the findings in this report make you feel? In other words, what is the feeling of the panel about what has been uncovered in the respective investigations? And then the second question, have you seen any improvement in service delivery since the investigation commenced? In other words, beyond what the City of Johannesburg or the Department of Social Development has provided to us by way of those implementation plans, have we seen for ourselves any improvement in that regard? And before the responses, let me just apologize to Ms. Katleho Sekhoto. Earlier I said it's Mr. Katleho Sekhoto, when in fact it's Ms. Sekhoto. I apologize for that. Let me hand over to the panel to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, Advocate Majola. Maybe from your side, I don't know whether you'd want to go first.
Thank you, Public Protector. How do we feel about these reports? Can I speak about my own feelings? I feel very bad. I feel bad because in the first place, we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be talking about this. So many people fought for this liberation, and it was on the understanding that there would be some difference, a lot of difference between apartheid and what we have now. And therefore, the expectations of people should have been met. And it's regrettable that those expectations have been failed, not only in Alexandra, but in many other places. And that corruption has jumped in, and that service delivery has therefore suffered, and therefore that the rights of people have been violated. So I feel that, people should not be where they are now, because our successive governments and local governments and provincial governments should have done more than they have done in order to make sure that people have got adequate houses, that people in Alexandra are not piled up one on top of the other in the way that they are, that there is service delivery, there is water, there is no running sewage in the streets. All the ills that were mentioned in the reports should not be there. On the other hand, I am pleased that the matters have now been brought to the surface, and that we have investigated, and that we have made findings as to the way forward, and hope that, therefore, that there will be cooperation from the relevant levels of government to fix the problem in Alexandra. So far, of course, we haven't started really monitoring implementation. We can tell whether there will be progress. There is progress once we have, now that we have released the report and we start monitoring the report. And also we will have to define what we think it should be called progress in terms of what the government and other stakeholders will do. With regard to the Yukskei River, I'd like just to allow my colleagues, Buang Jones and Commissioner Sbanyoni to indicate in that regard whether the Yukskei River has been investigated. I'm not sure what is meant, but perhaps the whole question of the environmental issues relating to the river. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to answer that question. During the inquiry, we also looked into the environmental degradation that is currently persistent in Alex. We also looked into the contamination of the Yukskei River. We will not embark on a separate investigation which would seek to look at similar issues. The Commission will later on this year pronounce on issues relating to contamination of our rivers and wastewater treatment plants. I also wish to echo what the Chairperson has said, that the challenges of basic services in Alexandra are indicative of the structural challenges that have persisted over the past 26 years in delivering of multi-billion investment projects. Alexandra is but a microcosm of what is happening in other highly densely populated townships, Kailicha, parts of Kwamashu and Umlazi, parts of Mdantsane, and other parts of the country where people are still crying and calling for service delivery. And we hope with this report, it will attempt to address those challenges. Thank you.
DPP, you can take the other.
Thank you, Public Protector. From our side, I'm going to start with the issue of the property owners. We have since learned that the property owners had taken the city of Johannesburg to court for an interdict. Therefore, that matter was then a subject of court, and in line with our mandate that we do not investigate matters of which its facts are before the court. Therefore, we did not venture into that aspect of the project. On what the residents of Alexandra can do if there are no consequences or nothing is being implemented, let me stress out that several case law has made pronouncements on the binding effect of the remedial action of the public protector. Therefore, the city or any other parties do not have an option on whether or not to implement our remedial action. The remedial action has to be implemented provided that they take the public protector report on review at a court of law and also interdicted immediately to ensure that they do not implement the remedial action. But as the public protector has stated earlier on, I think it's important for us to emphasize that this report remains a legacy for the residences of Alexandra and generations to come that would occupy the area of Alexandra in terms of the development of that area. I thank you.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Sbanyoni, you needed to add on the water issue, or he's not there. Back to you, Program Director.
Thank
you, Public Protector. There's nothing that I want to add. I'm covered by the response that was given by the Provincial Manager, Buang Jones.
Thank you, Commissioner Sibanyoni, the Public Protector, Deputy Public Protector, and the Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. I think we are left with but one question, which comes from one of the attendees who goes by the name Zona Morton, who would like to know if it is possible that we can have this type of investigation or these type of investigations done in townships in the Western Cape as well. That question came through the chat box on this Zoom platform from someone by the name of Zona Morton. I suppose it goes for both the Public Protector and the Human Rights Commission. We do not have any further questions. After that response, we will proceed to adjourn. Thank you.
Okay, from our side, Program Director, and the question which has been asked, I indicated earlier that we cooperated with the Human Rights Commission in the Western Cape, the Masiphumelele intervention, which was very successful. In KwaZulu-Natal, the Cliplands hostels intervention, the report was issued, and it was successful. Indeed, we will continuously do that. And since I said we have a memorandum of understanding with the South African Human Rights Commission, but further, we are currently doing an investigation on the issues of the higher education, and that is also ongoing and it is going well. So that process will be done, and I hope, in fact, from my side, the Deputy Public Protector, because she's delegated for all the service delivery related complaints, they will also go back and engage the Human Rights Commission. We can come up with a plan on which other areas to identify. Alternatively, we can also then make sure, because what we are going to do, we will be writing to the Speaker of the National Assembly and request that this report also be tabled in Parliament. And I think even from the Human Rights Commission, some of their reports, normally they do that. And once that is done, it will also then assist that, possibly also present it to the National Council of Provinces. And the lessons which we have provided for Alexandra then can be also implemented in other provinces, because that's the main intention of our reports as the Public Protector, is that we identify the weaknesses and mischiefs in the system and make recommendations that those, or remedies, that those should not be repeated. And we expect government or public servants to learn from our reports, go into our website, go into the reports and say and check and see what recommendations we've made. Therefore, any administration which comes into power, they can then identify and take those implementation plans, implement them, then their work will be simple. As I said in my statement, that we are here not to embarrass or to expose, but we are here to identify the weaknesses in the system so that it can be dealt with. Because the situation in Alexandra, our report, you'll see once it's posted on the website, is very gory, and it's not an environment where a human being should be subjected to, especially the filth, the way the issues of sanitation, the water related issues. I mean, with this pandemic, if you can see how congested is that particular place. So I think that's not what we would want our people to experience 27 years after democracy. Professor Major.
Thank you, Public Protector. My short answer is that, of course, the South African Human Rights Commission is there to promote and protect human rights and to monitor the observance of human rights, and to investigate where there are allegations or where the Commission itself on its own suspects that rights have been violated. So the short answer is that yes, it's possible to do such an investigation in the Western Cape on the understanding that such an investigation would then be triggered accordingly, either by complaints or by the suspicion or on the part of the Commission on its own that rights are being violated, and then we can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Majola and the Public Protector. There's a late question that just came in now from Alex FM. And then it goes that the EFF appeared before the inquiry on land occupation in Alexandra. If he would like to know if the two investigations touched on issues of land occupation in the township as part of those investigations. Or maybe I should.
Can Wang Jones answer this question quickly, please?
Thank you, Chair. The reports touch on illegal land occupation and structures that were illegally erected on the pavements in Alex. So the report is very comprehensive. It does cover areas pertaining to human settlements. And the copy of the report is available on our website. And we will also post the lockdown restrictions, also visit Alex to, as part of our monitoring mandate, to engage with the community on the contents of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. As we draw to a close, I would like to read out a message of gratitude from a gentleman by the name of Sandile Mavundla, who says he speaks on behalf of the group that was responsible for the shutdown Alexandra project. He says that they are thankful for the efforts by the Public Protector and the Human Rights Commission. He says he speaks on behalf of the residents. Now, I would like to thank the Public Protector, the Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, Advocate Majola, the Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Kollega Galega, Commissioners Sibanyoni and Gum, Mr. Buang Jones, Mr. Vusumzi Dlamini, as well as all the journalists who took part in this session. We can't thank you enough for making time to engage the people of Alexandra on this very important service delivery issue. There are no more questions, as I said, and therefore I will propose that we adjourn the press conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye.